Welcome to the Health Headliner podcast by Tudu Digital. Our content is informational only and not medical advice. Please consult your provider. Now, let's dive into today's headlines.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be talking about something pretty wild, the potential to diagnose multiple diseases from a single blood test.
Sounds pretty sci-fi.
Yeah, right. It almost feels like something out of Star Trek, but it's all thanks to our own immune systems and a little help from AI. We're going to be looking at a really cool article from ScienceX Network all about some cutting-edge research recently published in Science.
It really is a fascinating area.
I know, right? So much potential for changing how we approach diagnosis and treatment and all that.
Yeah, it's very different from the way we typically diagnose diseases now, which, as many people probably know, involves lots of tests, waiting, sometimes uncertainty about what's actually going on.
I think we've all been there. It can be frustrating and sometimes scary, honestly, to go through that whole process. But the idea that our immune system is basically like a walking, talking record of our health history, that's pretty amazing when you think about it.
Yeah, definitely. Our immune systems are constantly learning and adapting. Every time we get sick or get vaccinated, our bodies are creating a sort of memory bank of those encounters.
And that memory bank is stored where, exactly?
Primarily in our B cells and T cells. They're these specialized cells that play a huge role in our immune response. And the key to understanding how they work is to look at their receptors.
Okay, so receptors, like little antennas on the cells.
Yeah, kind of. You can think of them as like sensors that are constantly scanning for threats. Each B cell and T cell has unique receptors called B cell receptors, or BCRs for short, and T cell receptors, or TCRs.
So BCRs and TCRs, got it.
Right, and every time we encounter something new, like a virus or bacteria, these receptors actually change their structure slightly to kind of remember that encounter.
So it's like they're updating their files with information about each new threat.
Precisely. So by analyzing these receptors, we can actually get a pretty detailed picture of what our immune systems have been up against throughout our lives.
Okay, this is where it starts to get really cool, right? Because this is where the AI comes in.
Exactly. So scientists have developed this incredible AI tool called MAL-ID. That stands for Machine Learning for Immunological Diagnosis.
Catchy name.
Yeah. And what MAL-ID does is it basically decodes the information stored in these immune receptors. It analyzes the patterns in those receptors to identify specific diseases and conditions.
So it's like an AI detective looking for clues in our immune system's fingerprint.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And what's really impressive is how accurate this thing is. In a recent study, they found that MAL-ID could distinguish between 6 different health states with near-perfect accuracy.
6? Like what kind of health states are we talking about here?
Well, they looked at COVID-19, HIV, lupus, type 1 diabetes.
Wow. Okay, that's a pretty diverse range of conditions.
Yeah. They also looked at the body's response to the flu vaccine and a healthy state as a sort of baseline. And the accuracy across all these different suits was remarkable.
Okay, but before we get too carried away, let's talk about the study itself. Was this a large-scale study? I mean, how many people were involved?
Oh, yeah. It was definitely a significant study. They had 593 participants.
Okay, that's a pretty solid sample size.
And they didn't just look at one type of immune receptor either. They analyzed both B cell and T cell receptor sequences, which really gives you a more comprehensive picture of the immune response.
And you said they used external data sets too?
Yeah, to validate their findings. So the results are pretty robust.
Okay, cool. So we're not just talking about a small experiment here.
Right.
This seems pretty substantial. And you mentioned lupus specifically earlier. Why is this success with lupus diagnosis so noteworthy?
Well, lupus is a really complex autoimmune disease. It can be incredibly difficult to diagnose accurately, especially early on. It often takes years and lots of different tests to get a definitive diagnosis. But MAL-ID was able to distinguish lupus from other conditions with 93% sensitivity and 90% specificity.
Okay, those numbers sound impressive, but can you break down what sensitivity and specificity actually mean, in a way that everyone can understand?
Of course. So sensitivity basically refers to a test's ability to correctly identify individuals who have the disease. In this case, 93% of the people with lupus were correctly identified by MAL-ID.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And what about specificity?
Specificity measures the test's ability to correctly identify those who don't have the disease. So in the study, MAL-ID correctly ruled out lupus in 90% of the people who didn't have it.
Okay, so basically, MAL-ID is pretty darn good at figuring out who has lupus and who doesn't, which is a huge deal for people who are struggling with this condition. because it's often misdiagnosed and misunderstood.
Absolutely. It has the potential to really change the way we approach lupus diagnosis and management.
So we've talked about how accurate MalID is at diagnosing all these different conditions.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to know how it actually works on a deeper level, like what's going on under the hood.
So MalID actually uses 3 different models to analyze the data from these immune receptors. The first one focuses on something called repertoire composition. Basically, what that means is it looks at the overall diversity of your immune receptors. So think of it as like analyzing the range of tools that your immune system has at its disposal.
So like the more diverse the repertoire, the better equipped your immune system is to handle different threats.
Yeah, exactly. It's like having a well-stocked toolbox.
Right.
If you've got a wide variety of tools, you're going to be better prepared to tackle any repair job that comes your way.
Makes sense.
And the second model delves even deeper into the structure of those receptors. It looks for specific patterns within their sequences. This model is called CDR3 clustering, and it allows MalID to identify these really subtle but crucial differences that distinguish one disease from another.
So it's like MalID is examining each tool in the toolbox very, very closely to see what makes it unique and how it might be used.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And then the third model, this is where it gets really interesting, utilizes something called protein language models. And this approach actually analyzes the 3D structure of the receptors. So it goes beyond just their sequence. It looks at their actual shape.
So it's like understanding not just the composition of the tool, but its actual form and function, how it's designed to interact with its target.
Precisely by combining these 3 models, MalID can build this really comprehensive picture of your immune history and pinpoint the specific disease or condition that's causing your symptoms.
This is amazing.
Ugh.
It really feels like we're entering a whole new era of diagnostics. But what excites me most is the potential of this technology beyond just diagnosis. Like, what other possibilities does immune sequencing open up?
Yeah, and the implications are huge. One area that has a lot of potential is personalized medicine, the idea of tailoring treatments based on an individual's unique immune profile. So imagine a world where your doctor could use your immune receptor data to predict how you'll respond to a specific medication.
So no more trial and error with medications or hoping for the best with a one-size-fits-all approach?
Exactly. This technology could help doctors determine the most effective treatment for you right from the start, minimize side effects, and maximize the chances of a positive outcome.
That would be revolutionary. And what other possibilities are we talking about?
Early disease detection is another area with huge potential. I mean, imagine if we could identify subtle changes in immune receptors before symptoms even appear.
Wow. So we could catch diseases in their earliest stages, potentially even before they have a chance to take hold.
Exactly. It would be a total shift from a reactive approach to healthcare to a proactive one focusing on prevention rather than just treatment.
I love that. And of course, we can't forget about vaccine development. This technology could help us create more effective and targeted vaccines by understanding how the immune system responds to them on a molecular level.
Yeah, definitely. There's so much potential there, too.
So this research has implications that go way beyond just diagnosis. We're talking about a potential paradigm shift in how we approach healthcare, moving towards a more personalized, preventative, and precise model.
Absolutely. It's a really exciting time to be working in this field.
I mean, it's pretty mind-blowing to think about where we started this conversation, talking about the frustration of traditional diagnosis, and now we're talking about potentially predicting the future of our health.
It really is incredible how much information is stored in our immune systems and how AI can help us unlock those secrets.
I know, right? It's a lot to process. But let's try to bring it back down to earth for a minute. What does all this mean for the average person? Like, how might this technology actually impact their lives in a tangible way?
Okay, so let's imagine a scenario where you go for your annual checkup, and as part of that checkup, you get an immune sequencing blood test. The results of that test could reveal not only your current health status, but also identify potential risks you might face down the line. Let's say, for example, the test shows that you have an increased likelihood of developing type 1 diabetes.
Okay, so instead of waiting for symptoms to appear, you'd have this valuable insight into your future health. What could you do with that information?
Well, armed with that knowledge, you could make proactive lifestyle changes, like adjustments to your diet and exercise routine that might help mitigate that risk. Or you might even be eligible for a clinical trial focused on preventative treatments for type 1 diabetes.
So it's about empowering people to take control of their health rather than just reacting to illness after it develops.
Exactly. Early detection and personalized preventative measures could really be game changers, and that's just one potential application. As research in this field continues to advance, we can only imagine the possibilities that will emerge.
It's both exciting and a bit daunting to consider the implications of this technology. It feels like we're standing on the edge of a major transformation in healthcare.
It's definitely a pivotal moment. And as with any groundbreaking scientific advancement, it's crucial to consider not just the benefits, but also the potential challenges. We need to ensure equitable access to this technology, address concerns about data privacy and security, and engage in thoughtful discussions about the ethical implications of having access to such profound insights about our health.
Absolutely. It's not just about the science, it's about how we use that science responsibly and ensure it benefits everyone.
Definitely. Open dialogue and careful consideration are essential as we navigate this uncharted territory.
Well, everyone, I think it's safe to say that we've had a healthy dose of mind-blowing information today. From AI detectives to the incredible power of our immune systems, it's clear that the future of healthcare is being shaped right before our eyes.
It's a future filled with potential, and I, for one, am incredibly excited to see what unfolds in the years to come.
As always, we encourage you to keep those amazing brains buzzing. And until our next deep dive, stay curious.
Thanks for tuning in to the Health Headliner podcast by Todo Digital. Like and subscribe for more health news and breakthroughs. Stay healthy and informed. See you next time.